is my money? Where is my money?
Amara, calm down. Maybe you moved it.
I did not move it. I know exactly where I put it. Somebody came into this room. Somebody took everything I have. Ah, village girl. You think fine ground oil go make you somebody? Leave her, leave her. Let her go and fry her Akara. Look at her, walking with that tray. She actually went through with it. I can't believe it. God, you saw who did this. You saw everything. I have nothing left but you. 3 weeks. Where will I find this money in 3 weeks?
They had no idea what was coming. Stay with this one till the end.
The Garden City, a place where oil wealth scented the air and the gap between rich and poor ran as wide as the river that split it in two. In that city of ambition and excess lived a young woman named Amara Chukwu, 22 years old, in her 3rd year of a business degree at the State University. Her entire wardrobe fit in a small bag, a few blouses, 2 skirts, 1 pair of sandals worn thin on the left side, and a quiet, unshakable resolve that made people who had no reason to fear her feel strangely uneasy anyway. Amara hadn't grown up poor by accident of bad luck alone. Her father, a retired schoolteacher turned small-scale farmer, had drilled one verse into her before she could read a full sentence on her own. The hand of the diligent will rule, Amara. Remember this always. Not the hand that begs, not the hand that steals, the hand that works. Yes, Papa, she used to say, not fully understanding it yet, only knowing that when her father spoke like that, the words were meant to be kept somewhere permanent. He never owned a car in his life, but he never owed a single kobo to anyone either. Her mother sold dried fish and spices at the market until her joints gave out from the walking. Amara, her mother told her once, rubbing her swollen knees by lamplight, the market has taught me one thing in 30 years. Nobody remembers who was rich. They remember who was honest. From that bent but unbroken woman, Amara had inherited something no classroom could teach. The conviction that hands offered honestly to work and to God are never left permanently empty. So every weekday, long before her roommate stirred, Amara was already at her small frying stand near the junction, turning out golden bean cakes for bus drivers, office workers, and market women who needed something warm before the city swallowed their mornings whole. "Auntie, 2 more please," a bus conductor would call out, tossing coins into her tray. "Nobody fries Akara like you, I swear. God bless your hustle too." She'd answer, smiling despite the smoke stinging her eyes, despite the 4 hours of sleep behind her. On Sundays, after church let out, she spent her afternoons braiding hair for a little extra income, her hands never quite still, her lips moving in silent prayer even as she worked. Her clients loved her for it. "Amara, why are you always praying under your breath?" one bride-to-be asked her once, laughing gently. "Because plaiting hair is work too," Amara said. "And Papa says any work done with your hands should also be done with your heart turned up to God." A year of this rhythm had bought her 2 semesters of tuition, a stack of second-hand textbooks, and just enough left over to send home to her mother. It wasn't an easy life, but it was entirely her own. People who build quietly tend to unsettle the people who build loudly. A cluster of Amara's classmates, led by a sharp-tongued girl named Ijeoma, wore shoes that cost more than a semester's fees, ate at the staff restaurant on money no student loan could explain, and carried themselves like women who'd found an easier road and weren't ashamed of it. Everyone suspected how they funded that life. Nobody said it out loud. "Look at her," Ijeoma muttered to her friend Blessing one afternoon, watching Amara cross the courtyard with a tray balanced on her arm. Level 3 student, still frying Akara like a market woman. No shame at all. Maybe she likes it. Blessing shrugged, smirking. Some people are built for small things. At first, the comments about Amara were just murmurs, traded between friends over lunch, never loud enough for her to hear. Then they sharpened. One afternoon, crossing campus with a bag of unsold bean cakes under her arm, Amara passed Ijeoma's group lounging under a tree near the faculty gate. "Amara," Blessing called out, loud enough for half the courtyard to hear. "Come sell us some Akara now. We pity you. Oh, you think fine ground oil go make you somebody?" The group erupted in laughter. Another girl, Fumi, added, "Maybe if she fries hard enough. Oil money go turn to real money, Abby? The laughter nearly buckled Amara's knees. She kept her eyes forward and said nothing. She kept walking. But something in her chest cracked. Not her face, something more tender than that. The very human wish to be liked, to belong, even when you know better than to need it. That night, in the dark of her room, she pressed her face into her pillow so her roommates wouldn't hear her crying. "Why does it still hurt, God?" she whispered. "I know who I am. Why does their laughter still find the soft part of me?" That quiet crack was where everything else began. Jealousy left unchecked stops being a feeling and becomes a plan. Months earlier, during a brief stretch when she and Amara had drifted into an uneasy friendship, Ijeoma had learned exactly where Amara kept her savings, folded into the pages of her Bible, tucked beneath her mattress. Amara had never thought to hide it. "You really keep your money inside your Bible?" Ijeoma had asked her once, feigning casual curiosity. "Nobody touches another person's Bible," Amara had said, simply laughing. "It's the safest place in the whole hostel." Ijeoma had smiled and said nothing more. She filed that trust away like a blade to use later. She recruited 2 girls from her hostel block, Blessing and a quieter girl named Ada, and together they waited. "We just take it and put it back exactly how it was," Ijeoma told them one night, voice low. "She won't even know for weeks. By the time she checks, it will look like she spent it herself." "I don't know, Ijeoma," Ada said, hesitating. "This is not a small thing." "You want to keep eating Gary every day while I dress well?" Ijeoma snapped. "This is business. Nobody will ever know." Twice their plan fell through, once because Amara came home early, once because a neighbor never left her room. But on the third attempt, the corridor was empty. Amara's roommate was away for the weekend, and Amara herself had left before dawn for a bridal hair appointment across town. They found the Bible. Inside it, 47,000 naira. Every note earned by hand, saved over 18 months of 5 a.m. mornings. Take it, Ijeoma whispered, stuffing the notes into her bag. "Fold the Bible back exactly like that." "Exactly like that, Ada." They split it and disappeared without a trace. When Amara came home that evening, still humming a hymn, her hand slid under the mattress out of habit and found nothing. She checked again and again. Then she sat on the floor holding the empty Bible to her chest and didn't make a sound for a long time, until the sound finally broke out of her. The scene the story opened with, her roommate frozen in the doorway, her voice cracking through the small room. She reported it, not because she trusted the system to care about a girl with no connections, but because her father had always told her, "Never let a wrong go unspoken, Amara. Even if no man ever hears it, heaven keeps its own record." The officer at the campus security desk barely looked up from his register. "We will investigate," he said flatly. "Come back next week." She went back 3 times over 2 weeks. Each time the same tired answer, "Nothing yet, come back." Meanwhile, the story spread across campus the way these things do. "Did you hear? That Akara girl's money got stolen," students whispered in hallways. Some pitied her. Some laughed behind their hands. A few quietly suspected Ijeoma's group but said nothing, unwilling to risk the cost of speaking up against a powerful name. Then came the letter from the bursar. She had nothing left to pay it with, and 3 weeks to somehow find it. 3 weeks, she said aloud to no one, standing alone in the corridor. "Where will I find this money in 3 weeks?" And across the courtyard, Ijeoma smiled over lunch. "Did you hear? That Akara girl is finished. No money, no school. Some people were never built for this life." The days that followed tested Amara in ways she had never imagined. She still rose at 5 to fry Akara, because there was no other option, but every naira she earned now went straight to survival, not savings. Some nights she skipped dinner entirely, telling her roommate she wasn't hungry, when really her stomach simply couldn't compete with her fear. "Amara, you have to eat something." Her roommate, Nkechi, pleaded one evening, holding out a plate of rice. "I'm fine," Amara said, though her voice betrayed her. "I just need to think. I need to figure this out." "You can't think on an empty stomach," Nkechi said gently, setting the plate down beside her anyway. "Eat, then think." Amara managed a small, grateful smile, but the fear never fully left her eyes. Every morning, Ijeoma passed in the corridor without a glance, as though Amara had become invisible, a kind of silence that hurt worse than any insult. She began praying with a desperation she had never known. "God, I don't understand this," she whispered one night in the campus chapel, alone in the dim light. "I worked. I didn't steal from anyone. I didn't cheat anyone. Why is this happening to me? Where are you in this?" She sat with the silence a long time. No lightning, no voice from the sky, just the quiet chapel and her own breathing and a stubborn thread of faith that refused to fully break even when it had every reason to. It was during those long, grinding weeks that Amara's fortune began quietly to turn. His name was Emeka Obi, a final-year mechanical engineering student known for his calm precision and a habit of noticing things everyone else walked straight past. One evening near the security post, he found her sitting on a low wall, not crying. Past that, just staring into the distance like someone doing hard arithmetic on whether her life still had a future worth counting. He sat beside her without asking her name. "You're the one who sells Akara by the junction," he said quietly. She looked up, startled. "You know me? I pass you every morning on my way to the lab," he said. "You pray before you light the fire, every single day. Even in the rain, I've seen you standing there with your eyes closed before you even strike the match." Something about being seen, not mocked, not pitied, just quietly noticed, broke something open in her chest. Before she could stop herself, the whole story spilled out. "They took everything," she said, voice shaking. 47,000 naira. 18 months of 5 a.m. mornings, gone in one afternoon. And the school doesn't care. The security office doesn't care. I have 3 weeks before they suspend my record. And I don't have 3 naira, let alone the fees. Emeka listened without once interrupting. When she finished, there was a long pause, the kind that held the weight of someone thinking carefully before they speak. "Give me 1 week," he finally said. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means give me 1 week," he repeated, standing. "Trust me." She didn't fully understand it, but there was something in his voice, not bravado, not performance, that made her believe him anyway. What she didn't know was that Emeka already had a head start. A friend of his who lived in her hostel block had seen Ijioma's group entering her room that Sunday and had quietly mentioned it to him weeks earlier, too afraid of Ijioma's family name to report it officially himself. "I saw them go in," the friend Tunde had told Emeka privately. "I didn't say anything because everyone knows whose daughter Ijioma is, but it's been eating at me." "You should have told someone," Emeka said. "Tell who?" Tunde said bitterly. "The same officer who does nothing?" "Ijioma's father built half the buildings on this campus. Then we find another way," Emeka said. He spent the week quietly gathering what he could. Tunde's witness account, hostel entry logs from the security post, and, after a careful conversation with a cooperative clerk who owed him a favor, a bank deposit slip showing Ijeoma had put an oddly specific sum into her student savings account that same Sunday evening, a sum that matched Amara's stolen money almost to the naira. He brought all of it to Dr. Ngozi Bello, a member of the University Disciplinary Committee known for treating injustice as a personal affront. "This is serious evidence, Emeka," Dr. Bello said, studying the papers. "Why are you the one bringing this and not the girl herself?" "Because she's exhausted," Emeka said. "Because she's been going back and forth to an office that keeps telling her to come back next week. Because somebody needs to actually do something instead of just writing it in a register." Dr. Bello looked at him a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Bring her in 7 days. I'll have the committee ready." 7 days later, Amara was summoned to the Office of Student Affairs, expecting nothing more than another dead end, another form, another tired official. Instead, she walked in and found Emeka already seated beside Dr. Bello at a formal table. Ijeoma sat across from them, arms crossed, her usual confidence visibly cracking at the edges. "What is going on?" Ijeoma demanded, glancing between the faces in the room. "Why am I here?" Dr. Bello slid a folder across the table. "Perhaps you can tell us, Miss Ijeoma." Ijeoma's eyes flicked to the papers, the witness statement, the hostel logs, the bank slip, and something in her face went pale. This doesn't prove anything," she said, her voice losing its usual sharp edge. "A deposit of exactly 47,000 naira, Dr. Bello said calmly. "Made the same evening, Amara's savings disappeared from her room, which hostel records confirm you entered that afternoon. Would you like to explain the coincidence?" Ijeoma opened her mouth, then closed it. Beside her, Ada, who had said nothing this whole time, suddenly put her face in her hands. "I already told the warden this morning," Ada said quietly, tears slipping through her fingers. "I told her everything before the hearing even started. I couldn't carry it anymore." The room went still. Amara sat frozen, watching the confession unfold in real time, hardly able to believe what she was hearing. Ada," Ijeoma hissed. "I'm done lying for you," Ada said, lifting her head, eyes red. "I'm sorry, Amara. I am so sorry." The hearing ran 2 hours. By the end, Ijeoma and Blessing were suspended pending full investigation. Ada, already having confessed, faced a lighter disciplinary path in exchange for her cooperation. The full 47,000 naira was ordered returned to Amara within 5 working days. But what struck Amara hardest wasn't the verdict. It was looking across the room at Emeka, a man who'd spent an entire week fighting on her behalf without being asked, without announcing it, without expecting thanks. "Why did you do all this?" she asked him quietly, once the room had emptied. "Because somebody needed to," he said simply, "and because you prayed before lighting a fire every single morning, rain or not. People like that deserve someone in their corner." She thought of an old saying of her grandmother's, "The one who brings cola brings life." He'd shown up. That was all. That was everything. Justice didn't make the road smooth. Ijuma's family had influence, and within days a new rumor was moving through campus that Amara had engineered the whole thing herself, planted the evidence, set Ijoma up out of jealousy. "You hear the story going around?" one classmate whispered to another, just loud enough for Amara to catch as she passed. "They say she planned the whole thing. How would a girl like her plan something like that?" the other whispered back, though not unkindly. "But you know how these things go. Money talks." People chose sides the way people usually do, not by weighing evidence, but by weighing risk. Standing with Amara cost something. Standing with a powerful family cost less. 2 friends who used to walk beside her openly began keeping a careful distance. A lecturer who once smiled warmly at her class contributions stopped calling on her by name. One morning, she found a folded note slipped beneath her hostel door. She opened it slowly. "Beware the Akara witch," it read in scratchy handwriting. She stood there holding it, feeling something in her chest go cold and hollow. Some evenings she sat alone in the campus chapel, unable to form a single complete prayer, just breathing, believing that remaining in the room when she had nothing to say was itself a form of faithfulness. "I don't know what to say to you tonight," she whispered once, staring at the small altar at the front of the empty chapel. "I'm just here. I hope that's enough." Emeka never left her side through any of it. He walked with her to lectures each morning. On the evening she couldn't speak, he sat quietly beside her in the back pew of the chapel, saying nothing, simply present. He brought her food when she forgot to eat, setting it down without comment, never pushing her to talk before she was ready. "You don't have to fix me, you know," she told him one evening, staring at the untouched plate between them. "I'm not trying to fix you," he said. "I'm just not going to let you sit through this alone." She looked at him for a long moment, something in her chest loosening slightly for the first time in weeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "For staying. I'm not going anywhere," he said simply. Then, slowly, something shifted. A final-year law student who had watched the entire chain of events from a close distance wrote an anonymous piece for the university's online magazine. The headline, "The Girl They Tried to Break and Failed." It named no one directly, but for anyone who knew the story, it named everyone. Within 2 days, the article had been shared hundreds of times, forwarded through WhatsApp groups, screenshotted, and captioned across campus social pages. "Wait, is this about that Akara girl?" Someone commented beneath a repost. "I heard the full story now. This is so unfair what they did to her." Dr. Bello read it, and then quietly did something Amara wouldn't learn about for 3 more weeks. She submitted Amara's name for the Vice Chancellor's Award for Student Integrity, a scholarship covering not only her outstanding tuition, but housing for the rest of her degree and a monthly stipend. Amara learned of it on an ordinary grey Monday, opening her campus pigeonhole to find an official envelope stamped with the university crest. She stood frozen in the narrow corridor and read the letter once, twice, a third time. "This can't be real," she whispered to herself, hands beginning to shake. "This cannot be real." She pressed the letter to her chest and leaned against the wall, letting out a long shaking breath that had been trapped inside her for months. On the morning of the award ceremony, Amara stood backstage in the university hall, trembling, not from fear this time, but from understanding. She thought about her cracked sandal, her 3 blouses, the smell of palm oil that had clung to her clothes, the smell she'd once been mocked for, called a mark of failure, of the village, of limitation. Standing there in a white dress her mother had sewn from new fabric, Amara understood something she hadn't had words for before. The oil had never been shame. It had been an anointing. When her name was called across the hall, she walked toward the light the way a woman walks, who has crossed through fire and come out the other side. Not destroyed, but refined down to something true. Her mother, in the front row, pressed both palms over her mouth. Her father sat with his spine very straight and his eyes very bright. At the microphone holding the award, Amara said only a few sentences. She named no one. She described no betrayals, no nights crying into pillows, no stolen savings, no notes slipped under doors. My father taught me something before I was old enough to understand it, she said, voice steady despite the tremble beneath it. The hand of the diligent will rule. I am still learning what that means, but I am beginning to understand. Thank you. The hall was silent for 2 full seconds, the particular silence of a crowd that has heard something it needs a moment to absorb. Then the applause came, the kind a person feels in the chest before the ears even register it. In the very back row, Emeka clapped until his palms went red and warm, a wide, unguarded smile breaking across his usually composed face. Across town, in a hostel room that had grown quiet since the suspension, Ijoma watched the ceremony unfold on her phone, a video someone had shared with a simple caption. The girl they tried to destroy just won. She stared at the screen a long moment, then set the phone face down on her mattress and said nothing at all. Some lessons only arrive in silence, and only to those willing to sit still enough to hear them. 2 years later, Amara and Emeka opened a small business together, a name drawn not from a marketing meeting but from scripture and her mother's history. What started as a packaged bean cake delivery service grew within 18 months into something neither of them had planned, a food production line, a natural hair studio, and a training center teaching young women from difficult backgrounds a trade they could build a life on. You really think this will work? Emeka asked her once, early on, looking over their first modest business plan. I think God doesn't waste 5 a.m. mornings, Amara said, smiling. I think we'll find out. The business was written up in a regional paper, then a national one, then mentioned on a radio program Emeka's uncle happened to catch while driving. He pulled over just to call and check if it was really them. Emeka, is this you they're talking about on the radio? His uncle shouted into the phone, half laughing, half stunned. My own nephew! None of it was built only on profit margins. It was built on every 5 a.m. morning in the dark, every Sunday evening with sore fingers, every swallowed tear, every prayer that had felt, at the time like it was disappearing into silence but had been quietly answered all along. As for Ije Oma, she finished her suspension, returned, graduated quietly, and carried the weight of what she'd done the way most people carry such things, without ever fully facing it. 3 years after the hearing, she walked into one of Amara's salons with a scarf pulled low, hoping not to be recognized. Amara recognized her instantly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Amara stepped forward. Welcome, she said gently. Come, sit down. Let us take care of you. Ijeoma looked up at her, eyes wide, clearly bracing for something else entirely. Anger, refusal, a closed door. You don't have to. I know I don't have to, Amara said simply. That's not why I'm doing it. Because that is what real integrity looks like when it's fully grown. It does not hoard its victory. It does not perform its forgiveness for an audience. It simply opens its hand not only to those who deserve it, but to whoever walks through the door. There's an old saying, it's in the heat of desire that a person's true character reveals itself. When people want what you've built, your peace, your name, your hard-earned respect, the heat of that wanting shows exactly who they are. Ijoma's hunger for what Amara carried had revealed her completely, and Amara's answer to everything that happened to her wasn't revenge. It wasn't even a speech. It was roots, grown deep through years of 5 a.m. mornings and prayers that didn't wait for comfort before they knelt. And from roots like that, given enough time, given enough faith that refuses to fold under pressure, an empire grows. If this story moved something in you, if it reminded you of your own quiet battles, your own 5 a.m. mornings, your own prayers that felt like they were disappearing into the dark, remember this: the hand of the diligent will always, in the end, bear rule.